What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. I am Mike Sparks. Joining me is Steve Mattias and Josh Brokaw. The Hounds got yet another win to just keep the good times rolling throughout the preseason. We got a potential kit leak, maybe, and we also got the Riveters schedule. So much to talk about, so let's go. Gentlemen, welcome back. Steve, what's good, man?
Relaxing weekend, caught up with a buddy on Friday night that I haven't seen in a while. So that was really good. One of my closest friends. So that was really good. Made myself biscuits and gravy yesterday. So that was breakfast yesterday and today with the leftovers. So enjoying that it was sunny both days for a little bit, getting out, taking Maria for some walks, and
Was the I don't want to use the phrase legit, but I was going to ask: was the gravy legit? Like, all full fat, like everything, or
butter? Throw in the sausage, cook up the sausage, throw in some onions. You throw the flour right on that mixture, and then add the milk, and then season it. And biscuits were buttermilk drop biscuits, so nice fluffy buttermilky biscuits. And today I put eggs on them. So
that's something that I've never made like myself at home, and I think I've only had it like once or twice, but my head exploded.
Really easy.
And I don't know if you've ever seen, there's some YouTube channel where they will go to different countries and they'll give kids food from like countries that aren't theirs. And so they went and found a bunch of British kids and gave them biscuits and gravy. The kids were like, oh, that is so gross. What is that? And then you can see after the first bite, it was like
Yeah. No, one of my favorite meals is the fried chicken and waffles with gravy, sausage gravy at Piper's. It's just like, it's better than any other fried chicken and waffles I've ever had.
Yeah.
Josh, what's good, man? I haven't eaten yet, and I'm starving. It's a lot. Like, I have dinner after this. I'm just like, not much is up. Had a pretty relaxed weekend. I'm both kind of sad and glad I didn't have to go out in the cold on Friday to watch the Hounds play fit. Like, I was like I'm gonna go, but it's gonna be cold. And then the announcement, I was like, oh shucks, I guess I don't have to do that now.
That change, taking the decision out of my hands completely, was like one of the best things possible, honestly, because it was like, I gotta go. Like, I haven't been to one yet. I was like, well, I guess I can't. Oh well.
I did see the new Captain America movie over the week. So nice. That was cool. It was nice to get back into the theater and actually see another movie. I have a movie pass for Cinemark, and it's like one free ticket, which is not really free because I paid for it, but it's a ticket every month, and they just build up. And I was like, I have like 6 tickets. I have not gone to the movies in forever. So it was nice to get back to the theater.
Did you enjoy it for what it was?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm the wrong person to like critique Marvel movies. I'm just like there for a good time. I'm like, oh, it's another Marvel movie. I'm in. And then like even like an okay one, I'm like, that was a blast. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. There was a giant red Hulk and it smashed things. Come on.
No, I'm just curious because I have not yet seen it. But I think it's all about expectations. Guys, let's talk about all of the different news and things that are happening. Josh, you already alluded to the fact that the game against Pitt got moved. It was originally supposed to be Friday night at Ambrose Field. For whatever reason, it was moved to 9:30 in the morning on Friday, which, apologies, I was supposed to do an interview with Robbie Mertz that morning, and I got the news that I was supposed to interview Robbie at 10, and I got the news that the game was at 9:30. So I emailed Grubba and was like, hey, so am I to take it that Robbie's not available at 10? And he said, Yep, and there's 24 other guys that won't be available to talk to you at that time either. Thanks, man. So we're gonna try to make Mertz happen this week. So if you have questions for him, send them over. Again, thanks to everybody who is watching, listening live. You can also drop them in the comments. We will save them up. Robbie's always a great interview. We love chatting on and off the air. So I'm sure he'd be game for pretty much any question we could throw at him. One other fun thing that we've been doing, I'm just like, I started one place, I'm going somewhere else. One other fun thing that we've been doing is these rapid fire questions. If you have a rapid fire question that you want to add to the stack, send those over as well, and we will add them to the stack. Josh and I were brainstorming some right before we started here, some really fun, cool ones. And I said, Steve, at some point, I'd actually like to do this with us, because I think
that'll be fun.
It would be very revealing, some of the answers that we give. So yeah, send them over, put them in. Back to the game. So Hounds play Pitt at 9:30 at it wasn't even Montour, it was Pitt's indoor field. What we do know, the team was live tweeting some components of the game, primarily the goals. We know that we got 3 goals. We know that we won 3-0. The goals came from a trialist, which thanks, Matt. At the first practice, I was like, are we ever going to get trialist's name? And he was like, yeah, we did that last year, like, after a week or two. And I'm like, I don't think you did.
No.
We're literally, we have 1 week of preseason games left, and we still don't know who these trialists are. So anyway, trialist scored. Basically, he crashed the net off of a Walty shot in the 13th minute. The second goal came from Kenny Forbes off a cross from Biasi. And then the third and final goal came from Max Broughton, who is our center back that we signed. It started off as a corner, and then the ball didn't really get loose. Charles all jumped on it, recycled it back in, and Broughton was there for the goal. So 3 goals, seeing some familiar names pop up in all of those. Josh, just like thoughts on what we know from what happened at the game.
The fact that Kenny Forbes, clipboard Kenny, it's not clipboard Kenny. Kenny was on the field and got, that the goal. So I think that's kind of interesting. And I love the fact that he scored against some college kids, because, it's a little bit of a like, oh, the old man's on the field. It's like, nope, he's still scoring goals. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Steve, how are you feeling?
Nice to see some guys that we expect to get some playing time doing some things that are helpful. Love to see Walty taking shots and Biasi getting the assist, and then seeing the new guys combining, because I think we'll see a little bit of both of them throughout the season. So do I think that means anything about how these guys are going to perform during the season? No, it's preseason, it's a college team, but kind of getting some of that type of movement that is evident with that, I think, is great. I think the only other thing that I think about is, it's kind of funny to me that Grubba, or whoever the intern is getting some preseason time as well, tweeting out this stuff and getting warmed up as well, because that's a big job. And I've been there watching Matt do it throughout the games at times. And, it's a lot of work. So good to see that they're warming up too for the season.
Yeah, man, they got to get the practice in. I'm curious. I mean, there's not obviously a ton to talk about. We went to Pitt. We beat a really good team 3-0. If we actually look at the schedule, we only have 2 preseason games left. This Tuesday, we're going to play Loudoun at Highmark, ostensibly at 2 p.m. And then Friday, we play Lexington away at 6 p.m. And then that is it. The preseason is over. And so it makes it a little bit difficult, I think, from all of our standpoints. There's really been, 2 games that we could see, and one of them was played in a blizzard. So, there's not a ton to know about this team at this point. If you actually sort of take the scores that we do know about, we know that the team is basically at a +8 in goal differential. We've only given up 1 goal that we know about. Now, there are lots of rumblings that game against the Crew, the first game of the season, might have been a real bloodbath. And so maybe we're back at 0. I don't know. But Josh, just we got 2 games left, man. How are you feeling about the preseason based on what it is that we've seen and what we know?
I feel like as far as what preseason's for, what should be going on, I want to hear another signing or two this week would be nice. I really hope we're not waiting until like right before the season begins to sign the last couple of people we're going to sign, because I got a feeling we only have like 2 or 3 signings left to announce, and I don't know if any of them are going to be like groundbreaking or like earth shattering. So I would expect to see a couple more signings. That would be nice. These trialists that keep on scoring, I feel like, I know it's not the same trialist every single time it's scoring, but it's hilarious to be like, trialist scored, trialist scored. So one of them would be a good signing to have a little bit of depth up top. So yeah, we need a new keeper as well. We need a third keeper, a trial, or a goal scorer, defender. I want to see that ball get rolling. But other than that, the preseason's been doing pretty good. I don't think there's anything to complain about, nothing to really worry about, and I'm excited for the season because of it.
Yeah, Steve, how are you feeling about things?
I mean, I feel good. I mean, this is a continuous run of form. Yes, it's the preseason, but getting goals, getting results, I think is really important towards building towards the season. So I'd like to see us go out and get results in the last 2. I'm kind of wondering if, I don't know if it'll be a name that we would know, but if there's still another player out there with some professional experience that we'll see come in as a signing. I've been thinking a little bit about, has Bob made the decision not to announce a player until he's sure that that player is actually physically here? And so I'm wondering if we'll see a guy announced in week 2 of the season because of visa issues, rather than what we've seen with so many players in the past where, hey, this guy's here, and then the season starts and we're like, okay, but where is he? So I'm kind of getting a thought that maybe Bob is going to do something like that this year, based on no information whatsoever, but just I kind of feel like that's kind of where we've seen some of the changes move towards. And so it wouldn't surprise me if there's someone in that situation that we see this year. And so I hope so. I'd like to see somebody with a little bit more experience, especially up top. Doesn't need to be someone that can be a dependable 90-minute goal scorer for the whole season, but someone that can come in and make a difference, provide a spark, score a goal late in a game when needed. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. Does the fact that we have been scoring so many goals, it feels like, in the preseason compared to previous preseasons, does that make you like, I'll just say for myself, typically we'll sort of look at preseason games and we don't put a lot of stock in them. And I'm not putting a lot of stock in these either. But you kind of look for little signs. And we mentioned for the past few episodes how talking to Sean Suber, and he's like, well, we're changing things. Like we're changing the defense. We're changing how we want to play. And based on the one game that we saw, it felt like there was a move to try to get as many bodies flowing forward as we can. The fact that of the games that we know about, we're at a +8 goal differential. Does that give either of you any sort of inkling that maybe we're going to see something that's a little bit different and maybe is a little more, not like, crazy fun times with the Hounds, but like, could we potentially see a shift in Bob from just a strategy perspective and trying to score more goals versus being more defensive? Or do you just chalk it up to the preseason and like, we'll wait and see what happens as things shake out? Steve, how do you feel about that?
No, so my first thought is, man, crazy fun times. That's a throwback. What was that? Was that like 2019 that we were? Yeah, wow.
That was
that's a fun throwback,
man.
right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think what you're talking about is something that we're going to see, but I'm not convinced that it's not something that's been in process. I think we were starting to see that throughout the season last year. The big difference was we just didn't have someone at that center forward role that really could maximize that and help the rest of the players around them score as well. And so I think this is an evolution of what we started to see change last year, and we're seeing the results in the preseason. And I hope we see those results in especially the beginning of the regular season. But I don't think our struggles last year were because we weren't trying to do more ambitious offense. We just didn't have the tools to execute that more ambitious offense.
Josh, are you hoping or thinking that we're going to be score more rather than defend more this year?
I do think we're going to score more, and I think it's more about the clientele we have and less about Bob completely changing what his tactics are. I think it's just, more of the fact that we didn't have the right pieces to do the scoring more. And this year we're going to have those pieces. Feel pretty confident about that. So we're going to have more goals. I don't think we should read too much though into the preseason results as far as, how many goals we've been scoring, because we've already seen with the games that were open to us in that high mark that a lot of times it's like, hockey changes at halftime where we're getting a whole different squad up on there. And like we're mixing and matching pieces. We're not actually having like a full starting 11 coming out all at once. It's more like a couple pieces here, a couple pieces there. So I don't think you can read too much into what we've seen as far as that goes. I'm more basing this off of just the clientele that we have this year. So yeah, I think we will have more goals. And
I think the other thing we're making the assumption on, and we've seen, is those other teams are doing the same thing. And so we're scoring all these goals against teams that are also not playing with necessarily their full strength or best 11 on the field at those times. And so I think that's another part of the equation that's important to recognize.
Yeah. Well, and I think that sort of gets to my next question here. By the time the three of us do this show again next weekend, our preseason will ostensibly be over. We'll have played the last two games of the preseason. I mentioned Tuesday versus Loudon at Highmark, Friday, 6 p.m. in Lexington. Josh, you mentioned, you'd like to see a few more signings through the door. Is there anything that you're going to be keeping an eye out for, either in regards to, what the team is saying about the games? Because I don't know if any of us are going to be there Tuesday at 2:00 to watch them play Loudon. So really sort of seeing the team updates, seeing the scoreline. Is there anything in particular you're hoping to see between now and then that will give you a good feeling of what you're anticipating for this team heading into week one?
I mean, other than actual names on paper and, posts being put out there on social media saying like we've signed 3 people, not much. These games, I do hope that this week we have our regular starting 11 kind of nailed down for the most part, and that we do see, if we see like a lineup come out, I want to see a lineup that looks like what we expect the first game of the season to be, at least for one of these games. Maybe even if it's just for a half, like I want to see that full lineup out on the field and kind of get a feel for what it's going to be. I'm sure they're doing it in practice. I'm sure they're doing like what they need to, but I just want to kind of get an inkling what that feels like and what that looks like.
Yeah. Do you think, Steve, that I'm trying to think back. I don't think we've seen a list of the lineup yet. We don't know who's played when, where, or how at this point. Yeah. We could be playing, DG at center back, and they're just not telling anybody. I don't.
Don't speak that into existence.
Yeah.
So what's the question?
Same thing. So what are you, I didn't ask this, but now I'm going to ask it. Is there anything that in particular that you're going to be looking for this week over the course of these 2 games that will give you some better feeling of what you can expect heading into week one?
No, I think same exact thing as Josh. I want to see not just the starting 11 and the guys that Bob expects to be the first 3 to 5 guys off the bench playing a lot of time together. I want to see that for the majority of the game, especially on Friday. I get 2 games in close proximity, so guys are probably not going to be playing 90 minutes, but get those guys out there for 60, 75 minutes together. Let them get that time in an actual game type situation rather than just a practice situation. I think that's more relevant to me, maybe even than the results of these games, especially because it's 2 preseason games within a matter of a few days. And so, I want to see warming up for the season, being ready for the start of the season, not starting the season with still a lot of things that need to develop. I want to hear Bob say, yeah, we've done way more we've done in the past. to be ready for the season. And this team is already doing the things that I want them to do out of the gates, rather than the number of times I've heard Bob say something along the lines of, yeah, we're still putting things together and we're still building towards our potential. Like, I don't want to hear that 2 months into the season, much less 2 games into the season. So I want to hear something different. So,
yeah. I feel excuse me. I feel good about the fact that it's Loudoun and Lexington, and it's not like 2 college teams, because ostensibly 2 championship teams, both are going to be in a similar situation where they're trying to, they're in the same spot. They're getting ready for next week. So yeah.
And I actually might be there on Tuesday. Tell my boss. No, he doesn't care. But I've got a meeting at 1 and I'll be in Oakland. And so as long as the weather stays nice, I plan on swinging by on my way home.
Do you think, so I know that Bob's done this in the past where he's kind of waited for MLS to start up and then he kind of like poaches a player that was, on the radar for some MLS team that maybe they didn't get picked up. That time's now. I mean, MLS just had their first weekend of, play. So I'm wondering if we might see a signing or even a person that wasn't really at these trials, at these games. Maybe he sneaks one in there. So that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. I appreciate the save too, guys. While I was like gagging off my, I was like a tickle in my throat. I was like, "What is going on?" So apologies.
Oh man, like this weather has been all messing me up for.
I was down and out for a few days this week. Whatever hit me. So yeah, I get it. I am interested. I talked about how by the time we do the show again next week, we'll have played our last 2 preseason games. Less than 2 weeks from now, we'll have played our first regular season game against North Carolina. I guess one more temperature check here. Josh, how are you feeling about things?
I'm excited. Like I really do think this is going to be a good year. I know I'm excited at the beginning of every season. But I feel like there's a lot of reasons to be excited this season. Like it does feel a little bit more like we got our ducks in order and they're all in a row. We're ready to go. I know there's a couple signings left to do, but I don't feel like any of these signings are going to be like the linchpin we need to have a good team. Like these signings just feel like filling in places that we don't have as much depth. So I feel like we got the team that's going to take us the distance. We're not waiting for another piece to come in.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, I was starting to think about like, okay, well, what other pieces do we need to sign, right? We've got at least 2 starting keepers that I think I'd be comfortable starting week 1 with. We know that from a center back position, we have guys that have played there for Bob last year, in addition to some promising young talent that we've seen show up and do good things at the preseason games. Midfield is completely stacked. And then, having somebody like Augie up top, having Brigham Larson, who got 2 goals in not the most recent preseason game, but the one before that, we know that there's guys who can put goals in. So now it is just filling in the pieces and kind of making sure you have the rest of the stuff. So I think you're right, Josh. Steve, how are you feeling?
Really good about going into this season. I think that there have been times in the past where I've been really excited about 1 or 2 players. And historically, those have mostly been defenders, at least new players to the team, right? I remember that preseason when Ordonez was in his first season, and just seeing him play in preseason was, man, this guy is going to be something special in this league, and maybe the best defender we've seen. And I think there's an argument for that. But I've never gone into a season where we've brought someone in where I'm as excited about what they can do as Augie. I just think Williams brings something that maybe he will be at the same level as Dequa was, but I think there's a really big difference between bringing a guy in that has already demonstrated that and a guy doing that for the first time and not expecting that the season that Dequa scored and got the golden boot, right? And so I wasn't expecting that from Dequa. It was great after it happened. This year I'm saying, we could see that again, and I can see a pathway to that. And I'm excited about that, right? And excited about it being on the front end of the field, the attacking end of the field, rather than the defensive end. Bob's going to pull the defense together, right? So I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about who's in goal. I'm not worried about the midfield. I'm excited to see what this team can do with a top tier goal scorer coming in and making waves. So I think this could be the team with the most potential that Bob has coached for the Riverhounds.
I think the biggest thing for me to that end, we talked about a few weeks ago, was the notion that the sense that we get from conversations just around the team was that Augie was somebody that Bob wanted to go get. And it wasn't just put on. So clearly, we know from years with Bob, he has a very distinct style and a very distinct approach, and he knows exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
And if he's identified somebody and said, that's the piece that I need, like that gets me even more excited. Right. So I tend to agree. I can't think of, I think last year there was a lot of questions about what was going to happen up front. That kind of bared itself out in the middle of the season where we really struggled to score. I don't feel that way this year. And in all honesty, some of the new guys that we've seen in preseason or we see stats from in the preseason look super promising, especially coupled with this whole, 2-year deal with an option thing that's new, shows that there's something there that the team's like, we got to lock these guys down. So really, really exciting stuff for sure. I'm feeling good too. One question that's not on here, and we won't get into it today, but for anybody who's listening, anybody that's watching, I'm interested in your thoughts as well, and maybe we'll pick this apart maybe next week. But we spent a lot of time last week talking about USL Premier, and there have been a lot of videos, a lot of pundits coming out talking about it this week. We've been sharing some of it over on Blue Sky, just the additional thoughts of the USL having a Division I league. An interesting conversation to have would be, I think in my mind, it's just the assumption of like, well, the Hounds are the Hounds. But the second you make the jump from second division to first division, in theory, the players on the team might have to look very different. So my question would be, which of the players that are currently on the Hounds do you think would still be in the starting 11 of a D1 team? Almost like an MLS level team. And so we're not going to get into it right now. We're going to save that for next week. You guys can think about it. Everybody that's listening, watching, you guys know how to get at us. We're on all the social platforms. You can email us at mongols3@gmail.com. I'm interested in your thoughts, and we can sort of take what everybody's thinking and maybe have that conversation, because it's an interesting thought experiment that I didn't think we'd have to be doing, but like there's potential for it. Yeah, here at some point. It's also, 2 to 3 years away. And so like some of the guys might be retired by that point. So like, I don't know. But if it was happening like tomorrow, which players do we think would still be there?
Except for Forbes.
Except for Forbes. Yeah, he'll still be here. Guys, one other thing about the Hounds, and then I want to talk about the Riveters for a bit. We did get news that the Hounds kit is going to be dropping on Thursday of this week. We do know that there's not going to be an event like last year. It's likely just going to be shared on social media. There's probably going to be a video. Everyone's kind of doing videos. The team did release a video of the guys opening a kit last week. It was in like a it was like a briefcase, almost like a briefcase box, and they opened it up and they pulled out a Charlie bag, and then they took the kit. They took the kit out, and it turned out to be a T-shirt with Eric Dick. Was it doing like 2 thumbs up or like a peace
2 thumbs up, a peace sign or something?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I can't remember, but it was a picture of him. It was great. It was a really funny video. I thought they did a great job with it. The build up with all of them opening it up and then having like it just be like a big tease. And it was just a dick pic, Eric dick pic.
Yes,
that's what I meant to say.
No, it's not what you meant to say. You were looking to leave that in.
It was hilarious. It was well done.
It was. I loved everything about it. Seeing the players' reactions to it, you knew they had no idea. But Eric's reaction at the end was absolutely priceless. It was just like, "Hey, that's me!" Right? Like, it was just really, really funny. So, I was like, "Oh, they're releasing it today," and then I started watching it, and then I just started laughing too. So it was a great tease, and that's the type of thing that I absolutely love to see from the social media team. Like, keep doing stuff like that. That's fun.
Yeah. I knew I was watching it and I was like, oh crap. Okay. This is actually happening. And the one player that I was watching for was Luke Biasi, because I know he's the one who has worn the new thing. So I'm watching him. And as soon as he pulls it out, you can see the look on his face like, wait a second. Everyone else had no clue because they had not put it on. And then I was like, okay, so there's the tell. Like, this is not actually the thing. I think Robbie Burt said it was the worst kit ever. So now I feel like we have to make those t-shirts, right? Like, I kind of want a dick pic t-shirt now that's him doing the, like, we're going to make that happen. We have the means.
Steel Army has a shirt coming out here shortly for print on demand that will maybe itch that scratch, we'll say.
Okay. Fair enough. If you haven't seen the video, go see the video. But the news is obviously, like I said, Thursday, the team is going to release the kit. I'm assuming that they will do it in waves like they've done in the past. Maybe we will see, well, what we're away first, whether we'll see home and away at the same time, and then they'll save a third kit for later, or do they just show the away first and then they'll release the home kit as we get closer to the end of March? Who knows? It's all about content these days. In addition to talking to Robbie this week, I would also really like to talk to Ben Wilson, who we talked to last year. He's the one who sort of did the kit designs, to kind of get his thoughts. We'll see if we can make that happen. I will say that Peter also dropped his designs for new kits over on Substack. So make sure that you head over to mongols.substack.com to see them. I think they look fantastic. I'm a really big fan of really all three of the ones that he put out there. So it'll be interesting to see what the team does, how it competes, because we've heard nothing but good things. Guys, any kind of final guesses as to what we may see come Thursday, Josh?
I mean, I know it's going to be the bars. I know it is. Like
hoops?
The hoops, sorry.
Yeah.
The hoops. Like, I know it's going to be hoops of some sort. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I absolutely like every hint I've seen, every single kind of like tease I've seen, it's going to be hoops of some sort for the home kit. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but that's like what I feel the strongest about. Other than that, it could be anything. And the fact that they are doing hoops, I feel like they're not just going to do normal hoops, because they're going to try to like outdo like the home kit we got last year, how different that was. I feel like to go from that to just like a traditional looking hoop is probably.
I started to point at my screen. I'm like, I'm not pointing, like I'm pointing at the one hanging behind Steve, which is kind of hoopish, but not really.
This one.
This
one.
Yeah. Like I just can't imagine.
Really hard to do. Yeah.
It's not gonna be that simple. So I got a feeling it's gonna be. There's gonna be some pizzazz to it, especially with Charlie. So I have no idea what to expect though.
I'm gonna ask you, and then Steve, I'll come to you. If it's not hoops, will you be disappointed? I know you're like a hoop guy.
I'll be very surprised, but it depends on what it is. Like, I want hoops a lot because I do want a traditional look to it. But if it's not hoops, I'm not going to be disappointed because, I want it to be good. So whatever it ends up being. But yeah, I will be very surprised if it's not.
Steve, I think I will be disappointed if it's not, because I think that has become such an identity for the Hounds. But I don't want it to be just the traditional hoops. And I don't think that we're going to get that with Charlie, right? Like, I think the way that Charlie has done all of their designs, I mean, if you see the new Monterey Bay kits dropped this week, they look really good, and they fit Monterey Bay, I think, really well. But they're not just like a static design, right? Like, they've got some dynamic look to them. They've got some patterns in them that are more subtle. So I think we're going to see something with that. I would love to see something with the hoops that maybe has like a two-tone yellow checkerboard or bridge motif or something like that built into the hoops that's more subtle, a part of the hoops or something like that. Like, that's the type of thing I'm hoping to see. If it's plain hoops, then I'm kind of like, that's a letdown. I don't think it will be, though.
Yeah. I really don't know what to expect. I think a lot of what I'm guessing is based off of the conversation that we had with Biasi and him saying that it's classic and it's traditional Pittsburgh. And I'm like, you've been here for like 4 years. So like, what does that actually mean, Luke? He might have been referencing since his time here versus actual classic traditional where we had like a vertical stripe. So like,
if it's anything though, that's a throwback, I think I'm on board with it. Right. I think that was my biggest, and the Bridge City kit grew on me over the season. It looks a lot better on the field than I thought it was going to look at the reveal. But I think my biggest critique of it is there was nothing about it that was Hounds as opposed to it being more Pittsburgh related, right? Like it didn't have any element that was consistent with the past of the Hounds. And so anything that keeps that consistency at any era, I think is fun. So hoops, top tier. Anything else, fine, but good.
The other thing I'll be looking for was when we talked to Eric Dick in December, he had said that he would love to rock a hot pink kit. So like if the keeper kit is hot pink, then we'll know that Eric's wishes were answered, but we shall see. So if you guys have any thoughts, anything that you think you would hate to see, send them over. Or if you're pretty certain that it's going to be hoops, let us know that as well. And we can have that conversation and sort of see where things go from there. Guys, pivoting over to the Riveters for a second. So we know that last week we had talked about how we know what their division is, that they are in it's the Great Forest division. I'm putting the schedule up first, but no, the Great Forest division. So we know that they're going to be playing against Erie and Cleveland and Buffalo and Rochester and Steel City. We got word that the schedule was going to be dropping this week, which it was. So let's talk about it. This is going to be the Riveters' inaugural season schedule. Unfortunately, the way that the team put out the schedule is really confusing and not great. So all of the, kudos and applause that we've been giving the marketing team and the social media team, this was a major fumble because if you're trying to read this on screen as we have it, the dates kind of bounce around and it's all over the place. But the important thing that we'll kind of get at, our first game of the season is going to be a home game against Cleveland on May 16th. And our last game of the season is going to be a home game against Steel City on June 27th, which is going to be insane. The other key takeaway, which is not apparent from just looking at this, is every one of our home games are either going to be on a Friday or on a Sunday. And we kind of talked about this in the last episode, where if we have too many midweek games at Highmark, people aren't really going to be able to show up, and it's going to be difficult to generate all of that enthusiasm. And, when I talked to Reagan Duvall, she was saying, I really hope we can get on that like Friday, Sunday schedule because we can't play the same day as the Hounds. And it seems like those wishes were granted. Yeah. So, Josh, we got the schedule. Thoughts on the Riveter schedule now that it's out there?
First off, I love that their first game is at home, not away. I was really hoping that we would get that, the very first time they take the field is actually at home at Highmark, and we can like celebrate that moment as a fandom. So that is great. 16th, looking forward to that. We also, just a little plug for the Steel Army. We have a riveting evening planned. It's kind of like All Hounds Eve, but for the Riveters. We have that planned for the night before on Thursday. So it is a school night, but we'll make do. Maybe not be out as late as we would be for, a weekend. But yeah, so that's great. And then, I do like the fact that most of the games are, Fridays and Sundays. A couple Saturdays in there. We do have that, Tuesday. But overall, this is not a bad schedule. It looks good to me. And ending it all with the, inner city rivalry type feel match will be great. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah. Steve, how you feel?
I feel great about it, right? I think Josh covered pretty much everything that I'm thinking about. But immediately to me, two things jumped out. That last game is the potential to have major significance if both teams are competing at the top of the division. And so I just love seeing that with a team that we want to see a rivalry develop with. The other thing that stands out to me is 12 days between the first game and the second game. That's a lot of time. And I don't know if I think that's a good thing or a bad thing yet. But it sticks out to me. Or 8 days, sorry. I went the wrong way with my math. But I think just like having a little bit more of a gap when all the other games are really compressed is one of those things that can be good or bad depending on how that first game goes. And so if they hit the ground running, having a longer time when their season is more compressed off could pull some steam out. But if they need to work on some things, that gives them a lot of time to then do some tweaks, work on some things. Maybe some of the players that are advancing further in NCAA that might not get to the team right away are getting more integrated with the team by that time. So just kind of, a little bit of some questions about the longer gap between those first two games and then everything else.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I did not do was early on, it was like a month ago, I went back and looked at North Carolina's school schedule and sort of compared it to where we could theoretically be starting. Now that we actually have an official start date, we'll have a better sense of what players will actually be done with college and able to be here for the first game compared to, maybe later in the season, like you said, Steve. That's a really good point. So we'll do some digging on that. Slight plug for Steel Army and the Steel Army Discord, as Liz pointed out in the comments. Shoes did put together a more chronological schedule so that you could actually see it in order, and aligning the Riveters schedule with the Hounds schedule so that you can sort of see where the games fall on the calendar side by side, so you can start to plan out a really busy, basically May into the end of June at least, for watching soccer in Pittsburgh, because it's just going to be game on top of game on top of game. We are going to be super busy during that period in terms of trying to cover all of these games and players and everything that's going on. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I am really, really looking forward to it. Just, on the schedule itself, the biggest thing for me is the Friday, Sunday games at Highmark. And the fact that we're finishing the season with Steel City at home is just going to be nuts, because that not only are you going to have Riveters fans there, you're going to have Steel City fans there. Like, that's going to be one that's going to be like, when we look back at the pictures of when the Crew were here for the Open Cup. I have a sense it's going to feel like that, except you're going to have like two rival sets of fans in a way that just wasn't there for the Crew. It's just going to be a packed house and a party. And
I hope you're right. I want Steel City to have fans. Like, I'm a little bit worried that it's going to be a little bit one-sided.
Listen, the sense that I get, and social media may blow up here, the sense that I get from social media is that there are lots of Steel City fans, and they are extremely active, and they are seeing this as a rivalry, like, right off the bat. So
that's great. I think I've wondered if the Steel City fans historically have just been diehard Riverhounds fans that root for the Steel City women's team, root for the lower division men's team, and go to some of those games because it's more soccer to watch. So I hope there's a group that is distinctly different, especially for the women's side.
The sense that I get, and I could be wrong, but I have multiple sources to kind of base this off of. I get the sense that there's a bit of a rivalry between the academies, where you have families that have jumped from one side to the other for various reasons. And so the ones that are in Steel City are diehard Steel City. And if that organization gets those people pumped up for a game like this, those people are going to show up, and it's going to be it's going to be a good time.
Yeah,
it's also going to be interesting because it's not something we as Riverhounds supporters get a lot, where it's going to be like the Riveters are kind of the bigger club at this point. Like they have a bigger organization behind them, a more pro. Like, it feels kind of like they're a little bit more cocky. Like, we have this situation where even the coach, I think we could be in the Super League right now. We're putting together that, lineup. And so having that cockiness, that's, pedigree feel to it is going to be a lot different than I feel like we're used to. This is kind of like us, talking crap already, being like, we're going to be, running roughshod over this whole division or whatever, and this is a stepping stone on our way to something bigger. Are we out of this league yet? Because we're too big for this league, and like that's kind of like the cockiness that we have already going into it, and I'm really loving it because it's not very often do we get to be on that side of the equation.
See, you say that you're loving it, and as you're describing it, I'm like, yeah. But the more you started to say it, I was like, you could swap out the name Riveters and replace it with Cincinnati FC, and then I was just like, oh no.
No, I mean, I get it. But guess who the Hounds never beat? Cincinnati FC. So I mean, like, it is true as much as we hated them because it was true. That's the way cookie crumbles. You know what I mean? And they were just USL was a stepping stone for Cincy, for Orlando, and that's kind of what this feels like for the Riveters, and that's going to be interesting to be on the side of the the equation here. So I'm looking forward to it.
I think the biggest difference, I hope the biggest difference in the comparison between those two is that we have openly kind of said, like, we want Steel City to be here. Like, we're excited about the rivalry. We want to see more good soccer. And this doesn't just turn into us to be like, oh, boo, Steel City. Like, the fans totally ruined that entire thing for me.
It's not that we don't want Steel City to be here. We just don't think that we want them to stay in this league and we're going to go up to the next league is the way it feels. Like, it doesn't feel like, no, we don't want Steel City. One other thing I do want to bring attention to for this whole thing is in June between the Hounds and the Riveters, there are 10 matches in the month of June. And Steel Army, we're counting both those for Pride Raiser. So just plan accordingly when you're saying how much you want to donate per goal, because we were counting Riveters goals and Hounds goals. So it's going to be a lot of games.
Take all of the money that you didn't have to spend last year because the Hounds didn't score and put it towards this year and call it a wash. Yeah.
Was it one goal last year? I think it was in the month.
Was it even one?
No, it was one. Yeah, because I just basically donated what I was planning on donating anyway, all off of that one goal.
Yeah. No, so the schedule is out there. It's awesome. Their marketing team, they had a video go out where they were challenging some of the new players to sketch the logo, draw the logo, which is always a fun thing to see. So they're ramping up, especially as the school season continues to carry on and get closer to the end. So lots and lots of stuff there.
The one other thing that I think Josh kind of alluded to this a little bit when he talked about all the games in June, but just the breakneck pace of games for these women. That I think I think it's 42 days between the first kick of the ball and that game against Steel City, and they played 10 games in that time. That's a lot of soccer in a short period of time.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. When we talked to Scott earlier this year, where he was saying that some of this is going to be almost like pulling girls up from the RDA and having like an A team, B team, where you're kind of rotating players through just because it is so breakneck. It is so fast. So it'll be interesting to see how they structure it, how much of it is the same starting 11 every game versus how much are they rotating in players just to give people minutes, because these ladies don't want to get hurt. I mean, they have college career. Many of them will have college careers that they're going back to. And this is kind of a step in that process. They're going to want to win. They're competitive, but there was a question that this was sort of outside of the scope of things. I was talking to Peter and he was saying about interviewing some of the ladies prior to the season starts, just some inside baseball stuff. Typically, whenever we talk to the Hounds, we just go through the Hounds and we say, can we talk to this guy? And they're like, sure. While the ladies are in college, we have to go through their colleges. And so we have to like get in touch with their athletic department and clear interviews with them. So we're still going to try to get some of the ladies in before the season starts, but considering how close the start of the season is to the end of their school year, it may be trickier. Absolutely want to do interviews with them. Once they are like with the Riveters, we're going to try to get as many interviews done as we can, even if we can like front load them and do a whole bunch and then like space them out. We want to give them as much coverage and we want to talk to these ladies for sure. It's just the logistics of dealing with the universities versus strictly with the Hounds might make it a little bit more difficult than, every week we have a different player or a coach on here, which is great. So that's just some inside baseball for all of you. We're going to do our best, but that's kind of where we're at with that.
Yeah.
Guys, lots of stuff going on. As we mentioned, I'm sure we're going to get more Riveters news this week. We're going to get a Hounds kit at least one Hounds kit this week. We've got 2 more Hounds games this week. Anything else that you guys want to talk about on this one?
Nothing's coming to mind. No.
Yeah. Just lots and lots of stuff going on. As I mentioned, you guys know how to get us. We're on all the social medias. We're at mongols3@gmail.com. As I mentioned, those lightning round questions, if you have any good ones that you want, send them over to us. We're going to try to talk to Robbie Mertz this week. If you have any questions for Robbie, send them over. If you want to do a video of yourself, send those over. We did that once with DG, and it was a hit. Even if we get a few of them, I know the players like seeing people asking the questions besides just me. So
didn't Dick send one over for DG?
Dick sent he sent one over while he was sitting next to DG.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So send those over. And even if we don't talk to Robbie this week, we will get them to Rob. I think Robbie was on 3 times last year. Like, he likes coming on. We like having him on. So we will get them to Robbie for sure. So lots going on. We always appreciate the support. Make sure that you head over and subscribe to us over on Substack as well. As we said, it's substack.mongols or mongols.substack.com. Sorry. I always get that wrong. Peter's article is over there about his designs for the kit, which if you've not seen them, like, they're pretty friggin' awesome. Go check those out. Otherwise, thanks everyone for watching and listening and sharing this with other soccer fans in the area, helping us grow the conversation. We really, really appreciate it. We will be back with more Hounds and Riveters content for you very, very soon.
Later.
See ya.